Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's live conversation with Shola Abulu. It promises to be an insightful one, and I really can't wait for us to dive into the conversation we have today. The topic we have right ahead of us is leveraging the power of public relations in the digital age. Just before we dive in proper, if you can hear us, can you just put the comments in the comment box? Let's know if you can hear us very well. Or rather, if you can hear me, let me know in the comment section. All right, awesome, awesome, awesome. Yeah, if you know anyone who needs to be a part of this conversation today, please do well to share this live session with them or send them an invite so they can also be a part of what we'll be talking about today. All right, so I'm just going to wait a bit. Let's do that. Share, invite someone so they could also just be a part of the conversation we have. All right, all right. Thank you for doing that. I know you are eager to dive into the conversation with us really, and I also can't wait. Okay, so while we get on that, I would love to really welcome the special guest. Well, she's a guest on our own show really. And that is Shola Abudu. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for putting all this together, and I really can't wait to explore the conversation we had ahead of us. Welcome once again, Shola, and thank you for doing this.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, great, great, great. Okay, so today we are talking about leveraging the power of public relations in the digital age. We of course we're in the digital age, and a lot is really happening. The landscape has really evolved with the developments in the digital space, and some persons are still concerned: is public relations still relevant? And what is the relationship, and how can public relations have a free flow in the digital age today? And there's a whole lot, for us to really unravel as we get on the conversation today, right? We all know that public relations has all its benefits, and some roles, in the ecosystem, sort of feel they can do some of the things that public relations experts are already doing. And so, why do we need to be so bothered about, public relations, really? But you and I would agree to the fact that public relations is very much relevant in today's world, in today's digital age, and that is really why we are here, to explore that and unravel it in its entirety. But I think before we really look at that proper, for because we can just really assume that everybody on the call today understands what public relation really is about. So I would like us to start with that. What is really what exactly is public relations? When we say public relations, what do we mean?
Thank you very much, Shino, and thanks. And I hope everybody can hear me pretty well. I'm looking and I can see that Dorcas and a number of people are on. Please invite other people to join as well. We'll be taking questions later, about halfway through the session. So please type in any questions that you have in the comments, and we'll take it when the
Yeah.
time, yeah, when we have the time to do so. So getting right into it, I would say public relations. Is a way in which a brand, a business, an entity, an institution, the way in which they interact with the external world, either the general public as a whole or segments of the public. But however, the way they talk about themselves, they interact, they promote, they engage, that is just really public relations. It's exactly what it says. It's relationships with the public, relationships with people outside of us. So that's really what it is. And PR was the foundation of so many other how would I say iterations of this whole relationship management, as I would call it. And as we go further into the conversation, I will talk a little bit more about that. But that's really the starting point. The realization several years ago that businesses needed to interact with people in a way that was not necessarily simply just about the business or about the initiative, but more about building a relationships that will help to enable the business. So that's just in a nutshell what it is.
Yeah, very spot on. And the fact is that public relations has its practice, right? And it has really evolved.
Mm.
And that's why we're actually talking about the conversation we have today. We're in the digital age, and the way public relations is probably done, several years ago, of course, would have metamorphosed, even with how it is being done today. But the
Mm.
principles are always the same, right? And as you mentioned, also, it's basically how a company or how an organization is managing its reputation, relating with the public, and all of that. I mean, thank you so much. That was spot on. Then, many people are on this call today, and they're also maybe they're having questions like, is public relations, what value does it really offer, to my organization, or to, I mean, if I look at members of staff and I realize that, okay, there's a particular space that is not created for a public relations officer or something, of such, what value would a public relation expert really bring to my company, or to a public relations consultant bring to my firm?
So that's a good question. I think it's really, I mean, first of all, I'll say, what kind of a firm is it that you have? Now, at every level, everybody needs to have a way in which they relate with the public. Whether you're an institution, whether you're a business, whether you're a brand, you must have you must have a way of relating with the public. And to be honest, it is a blind spot for some businesses. I see that the bigger businesses become more aware because they are too big to be ignored. So by the time you get very big, you begin to realize that you need to build relationships, because when issues come, a typical example, you have problem with your goods at the ports, you begin to find out that it makes sense for you to know who is in customs. It makes sense for you
Yeah.
to understand how aviation works in the maritime sector. So you eventually, the bigger your business becomes, or your initiative, or your NGO, you realize that you need to have relationships. But the value of public relations is really about goodwill and creating
Mm.
space and support for your business and your reputation. And I would say that everybody at every level need it. Even if you are somebody selling puff puff by the roadside, if you don't have PR with the people in that area, now one day you will come there and
Yeah.
you say you want to sell, they will drive you away. So you
Mm.
have to build those relationships. But I think, like I said, some people are more intentional about it than others, I think, is the thing. So there is a value in building relationships, whether you use a consultant to do it or you yourself. I mean, some people, their CEOs are actually good at doing that, so they're doing it at the CEO level. They may not have
Mm.
professionals doing it for them, but then
Yeah.
it gets to a level that your business is that one person cannot manage the relationships, and then you need to get more people involved to help you to proactively manage the relationships. And that's the important thing about public relations. It does not wait until when there is a problem before you start building the relationships.
Very true.
Pe- but yeah, public relations already recognizes that I am in this environment. I need support for my business or my initiative or my institution. Therefore, who are the people in my ecosystem? Who are the people that I relate to on a daily basis? Even for a school, for instance, I mean, we see this happen a lot. If you have a school or a church or a hospital in a residential area, as we see happening a lot around us, you have to build a relationship with the community. People in
Sure.
that estate, that's the first line of action. Why? Because the traffic is going to affect them. The people working at all hours of the night. If there's emergency in the hospital too, it also affects them. Waste disposal. So many things are going to be going on in that place that is going to affect the people in the neighborhood. So you had better start engaging them proactively. So that's just it. Yes, Adewale made a comment there. Yes, the value of public relations. That's just it. Goodwill. That's it. So that's, I can't say anything more than that. It's really, I mean, public relations also helps when you, like, in issues and crisis management. But if you did not even have any goodwill to even start off with, when you're in an issue, that's when you now
Mm.
know that you can't now be doing PR during crisis. You understand? It's a problem at
Yeah.
that point. I want you to solve the problem, so you had better have built the relationships before time, so that you can leverage on it
Mm.
when you need it. And that's really what we're talking about here, leveraging on the power. But you can only leverage on what you have. It is when you have built something that you can then talk about leveraging on it. If you haven't built something, you haven't cultivated relationships, there is no way you can leverage on it. So yeah, that's the value. It's really about goodwill and space and support for your business.
I mean, very correct. And while you are talking, I mean, my mind just goes back to several companies and organizations that have, actually been ruined, because of, poor management of, issues, and, because, issue management is part of what PR is about, reputation management. And we've seen how many companies and even individuals, big personalities, go down because of, how they have been, or how they were, how they poorly managed, situations that, if they had, consulted, a PR expert, or if they have had a good in-house, PR team, those situations could have been well managed. And, so we can't really, it's to be really bad to say, oh, we don't want to have anything to do with PR. I mean, or you don't want to, think deeply about, the value that PR can really offer you as a
Mm,
person or as an organization.
mm.
Uh, well said, Shola. Thank you. Thank you. Moving on, I just want us to talk about, PR now in the sense of socialization. And maybe somebody is on the call and is already thinking about the fact that I need to set up a PR team, or I need to go, or somebody just thinking about me, taking PR, practice or lessons, or or some courses. And I wanted to just, stress on the different specializations, or the, yeah, that make up public relations.
So thank you. Actually, public relations is very wide. I remember once I went to the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations website, NIPR, and I looked through all their specialisms, and there was a long list. I was trying to find that document again before I came on this, before we came on this event, but I couldn't find it. But
Mm.
I will just go through those that come through my head. So there is media relations, there is government relations, there is what you call generic PR. There's the publications aspect of it, there's campaigns and events, there's protocol management, there's the audiovisual, which is like in those days type of thing, which now we would call visual storytelling. There's the
Mhm.
advertising and publicity side, there's investor relations, there's community relations. I know I've left a lot behind, but I'm trying not to mention the things that are communications things, because on the other spectrum, you then have the marketing communications, this political communications, policy communications, risk communications, which is a different side of it. So I'm focusing more on the PR type of things, which is more like the traditional PR, which is more about relationships, stakeholder relationships, that kind of thing. So those are these specialisms, and I think why I mention them is that I think a lot of people, particularly if you want to step into a corporate communications role, corporate communications in any major brand or organizations requires you to have both public relations, old school public relations skills, as well as the newer school corporate
Yeah.
communication skills. But I fear that many people, even HR practitioners, don't know this difference.
Hmm.
So they tend to recruit. They don't think about, okay, for this job, do I need this person to be a generalist in both? Or do I need it to be more heavily weighted in PR or more weighted in comms? Because I
Hmm.
have seen it's very rare to find people who have both equally. So what happens most of the time is that the HR person recruits, they probably write whatever they think they write. By the time the person comes in, many times they recruit somebody who maybe is very good with relations, networks, but may not be able to write to save their lives. They cannot write a press release, for instance, or they can't write a holding statement, they can't develop messaging for the organization, which
Hmm.
is very much in the com space. I think
Yeah.
media relations is, I will say, the one that bridges the PR specialism that bridges into corporate comms. I would say is one of the bridging ones. Maybe there are others, because in media relations you have to do a lot of writing. You have
Yeah.
to be able to craft messaging. Very, like, if I come to you now, there's an issue, we need to respond to the media within 30 minutes, 1 hour. You must give me 3 lines that can work, that
Hmm.
I can take to the press and respond on this issue, and I'm not going to have any problems.
Yeah.
So those kind of skills is firmly in the traditional PR space, but it's also helpful in the corporate comms space. But again, most of the people that you find in the PR space, they do not necessarily have that media relation space. And I know you
Space.
will know about that, Shino, because if you notice, most people, most organizations have to recruit specially for media people.
Hmm.
And then when they are looking for a PR person, they then recruit differently. I am
Yeah.
yet to see a hardcore media person that really understands that PR is
Mm.
rare. Many of them are able to manage the media space, but not necessarily any stakeholder outside of the media space. Now, if you're going to be a corporate communications manager of a big brand and entity, you have to be able to, you must understand all these different practice areas and make them function in your organization. So I don't know if that answers your question to some extent, but yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah, it does. And just to give more clarity, maybe to somebody who's probably asking, or I mean, I'm just thinking about this right now. Is it mandatory for every communications professional to understand public relations? And is it also, mandatory for a public relations expert to also have a full knowledge of, of communications?
well, that's a good one. I won't say mandatory, but it's useful. And it also depends on what you want out of your career. So if you are, because in our practice area, we're always talking about specialists and generalists.
Yeah,
So if you want to grow to managerial level, first of all, if this practice area is where you want to be, and you are working in a formal sector, as in organized private sector or institution or government, and you are looking towards growing in the profession to maybe managerial level, leadership, director, then you are better get the two.
mm,
But if you are not planning to work in a formal sector, that is organized private sector, like we call it in Nigeria, or government, or institution like maybe or multilateral institutions like World Bank or any of those sort of things, or Canadian government, or that you're not planning any of those sort of
mm,
places. You want to stay in the informal entrepreneurial sector, then perhaps you may not need it. So that's really it. But if you are staying, and that's really the essence of this session today, I wanted to make it clear to the audience that in the formal sector, when I say, you know what I mean by formal, brick and mortar
yeah.
businesses, the people that have offices with physical address, where there is a stone, there's block, you understand? Whether you're, and I'm saying whether banks, whether schools, institutions, government, whatever they may be, those people, you will need to have PR skills and communication skills. You may be more specialized in some areas than others, but you cannot afford to, you must have that generalist knowledge of the two. Otherwise, you'll not be able to function. Why do I say this? Because, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, because imagine you go and work in the World Bank, you don't know anything about protocol, you don't know anything about public relations, and then you are dealing with World Bank that is dealing with with presidents,
Yeah.
with ministers of finance, with economic advisors. You don't know that certain names, you don't even have a sense. How are you going to function? You don't know that before you set up meetings with them, you have to call their offices. You don't know that you have to synchronize calendars. These are all traditional PR things. So whereas if you are used to working in the entrepreneurial new digital tech stuff, your own is to let me send him Calendly. You should book a time. No, you can't do Calendly for those people. You know what I mean? It's not a Calendly matter. You
Yeah,
have to
stakeholder
go,
management. Mm,
yes, you have to respectfully contact them, either phone call or visit. And do you understand what I'm saying? And then
yeah,
ask for you. You will have to handle it in a certain way, and that's what PR teaches you. So, and which is why, if you notice, many of these organizations, it's very difficult for people to get into them.
yeah,
This is precisely why they don't just pick people off the streets, because the skills that are required to work in those settings is not just about I know how to write a message, or I know how to write a post, or I can grow your Instagram followers. No, it's more about relationships, about respect, about the order of things. So back to your question, if you ever plan to work for an institution, or you ever plan to work for a national organization or an international organization or a corporate organization, yes, you need to have PR and comms. Both are relevant, just that you specialize in some and you may not specialize in others. But if you are planning to stay in the informal, maybe fintech or what, then yeah, you can stay in the digital space. You can forget PR. Although I must say, at some point, you will need that PR. Because by the time you start engaging with investors and things like that, there's an element of PR in that. And which is why you find many of those fintechs, in fact, many of them, because many of the tech companies, this happens even abroad, they don't manage crisis very well. And that's also because they don't, they feel they don't realize that they need to have the expertise in certain areas. So whenever problems come, most of them, you see them falling all over themselves. They make the wrong mistake, they say the wrong things, they do the wrong thing. So there's a stage, no matter how your business is, if it's growing, it's maturing, there's a stage you will get to that you will either need public relations expertise or media relations expertise or issues management expertise or crisis management expertise. So it's left for the decision makers to decide at what point that will be and when they bring those expertise in.
Huh. Shola, I just find it funny that many organizations are not paying so much attention to this area of public relations. And I'm going to ask you, why do you think that is the case? Because you have a lot of experience. You've worked, in international organizations, and now you are into consulting. I mean, there must be a reason why organizations don't pay, or some organizations don't pay attention to PR. And I'm thinking, is it because no, sometimes, yeah, I don't really know, but I would like you to answer that. I hold on to that. Then also, we have organizations who are just public concerned about, I mean, we're in the digital age, so they feel, okay, we need to grow our accounts, we need to, have a face out there. Then they get a digital marketer or they get a growth marketer, and they feel they are good. Okay, oh, how is it going online? Or are we on this platform? Are we on that platform? And nobody's thinking about, reputation management. Nobody's thinking about PR, core PR. And as you mentioned, when crises happen, this generation just fall flat because they've not been able to, build. They've not been able to, have something built to be able to cater to crisis management, which are some of the core responsibilities of a PR expert. Could you speak to that, please?
So yeah, thanks. To be honest, I think there was a conversation I had with one of my colleagues, I think a couple of weeks ago, and he said something that I found quite profound. He said, we had the same conversation about why organizations do not take PR and comms seriously, some organizations. And he said to them that many people do not see that, particularly in the entrepreneurial space, that many of them do not see what was the way he put it? He said, it's like there is no penalty or there is no risk. That until they see, it's like there's nothing stopping them from, there's no disadvantage to not giving it attention. So that until, if that, for instance, with every other thing that they give attention to, there is like in the compliance space, whether it is tax or HR, there are legal laws that if they do not comply with it, certain things would happen. But that in this space, it looks to them like something that, oh, is when I have time, I will do it. It's not a must do. It's not seen as a mandatory requirement. It looks like an optional, looks like an option. And I think that is, so yeah, I know I didn't articulate it quite the way he said it, but I found out that's the truth. But what I found is, and why I recognize what he said was because I've seen that when they get beaten once, most of the entrepreneurs that say they don't need it or they don't even pay any attention to it, once they have one bad experience, like one media case or one crisis case, quickly they're running helter-skelter. From then on, they now realize it's important, So it was really the fact that they didn't, it's like they wait until something bad happens before they realize. I wonder whether that will change, maybe as time goes on, maybe I don't know whether it would get to that point, because for me, I find it really baffling that people will set up business. I've seen people really set up businesses, very complex businesses. They will have called lawyers, they would have called accountants, they would have called HR people, commercial people, contracting people, even medical people self they will have called. And they will have started the business sometimes 4-5 years, not a single person managing comms. It baffles me because I'm like, so you wake up in the morning and there's a nasty headline. Who is that person that you're going to call on the fly to respond to you to it? And the person will be able to respond in a way that immediately they understand what your issues are. And that is why the responses that most of them bring out in those moments are always wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the corporate memory that that person should have had, the person doesn't have it. I, for one, I never, I mean, I don't even take, I don't take those kind of briefs. I never, you can't just bring me in on the flight to come. No, I mean, I'm not going to, because that's, I mean, yeah, I will have more respect if you already have a comms person on ground, and then you're
Yeah.
now bringing me in for advice on strategy to sharpen what is being done. But you've gone far in your business. You did not have a PR or a comms person, and then you're now calling me there's problem, and then you're now, you think I will jump, as in, please face your crisis. Do you understand? No,
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah.
So I think that's it, and I don't know
Mm.
if it's going to change, but I think the more, I think social media plays, the world that we're in right now plays to us very strongly, because, and I think when we add some more questions, I will talk a little bit more about the evolution
Yeah.
of the practice. So
Mm.
it's making it more difficult for them to ignore us.
Yeah.
More
Yeah.
difficult, yes.
Yeah.
That's why I would put it. Yeah.
Yeah, great, really. Because I feel sometimes even companies that have digital marketers, social media managers, those guys are really, really overwhelmed with JDs that are not theirs. You expect a social media manager to manage a crisis situation, also a digital marketer to manage a crisis situation. It's not, I mean, it's not what they are called out to do, because they have their own skill sets, right? Which are, you know, which we must really acknowledge.
On,
However,
on that, are you serious on that point? Are you saying that's what really happens? Digital
yes,
marketers
yes,
still have to manage.
yes, because they
Wow,
expect that you should be
it's
able to
even worse
do.
than I thought. Are
Yeah, I
you
mean, all of
serious?
these things happen. Yeah, but
Wow.
really, I mean, if you are, if you, I mean, for anyone listening to us, let's know your reactions in the comment box, and if you have any question, please, you can also put it in the comment section so we can really take them. So, if you're a digital marketer or a social media manager, I mean, you can really understand the fact that your JD is quite different from what a proper comms person or a PR expert would really do. And the onus is on the companies to sort of just create a room for these things, and not wait for when crises really happen before you start going helter skelter to resolve them. Thank you so much, Shola. You are really giving so much value already, and I just want to thank you. We just need to keep up the conversation. I can see a question here. I guess we can just take it now, before I dive into some of the questions I have for you. Abiodun Bisheson is asking, what is the difference and intersection between comms and PR? Do you want to just take that? I know
Yeah.
you touched on
Yeah.
it earlier.
Yes, I did. Thanks. And thanks, I'm Abiodun, for that question, and for always joining our sessions and asking questions. So that's a jam question, because I actually did a YouTube video about it, because I it's not an easy question to ask. To answer, because there's a lot of intersection, but there's also different. So the way I like to think about it, and the way which is not exactly an exact science, but I think it works for me, is that public relations manages the relationships aspect of our practice, and communications manages the communicating aspect. So with public relations, most of the time there's an object, a specified stakeholder that you are relating with, that you are interested in, that you are targeted in. And that's understanding that stakeholder is the essence of that practice area. So public relations, for instance, if you are saying public, you are talking about the general public. So everything that you're doing is trying to understand what the general public is. For instance, you could talk about the general public in Nigeria. You could talk about the general public in Southwest Nigeria. You could talk about the general public in school children in Nigeria. You could talk about the general public in college educated Nigerians, university students. So that's what public relations does. It identifies a demographic in the public, and then looks at a way to either engage with them, interact with them, discuss with them, learn more about them, gather research about them, advocate, influence, sell to them, market to them. That's what PR builds relationship. That's what PR does. Media relations now takes the media as a stakeholder, and then begins to dive into what is the media landscape like, What does traditional media do? How many TV stations are there in a particular environment? How do we use radio? What is the demographic? For instance, there was once I did an analysis of the radio in Nigeria, and I mean Lagos and the Southwest. I was fascinated. The university, if I want to get the university students, I should go through the university radios. If I want to get the suburban, the urban working class people, I know the stations that I go through. If I want the grassroots ones, I know the Wazobia FM, all that kind
Yeah.
of thing. So understanding that media landscape and then how I relate with the players in the space, that's what public relations does. So it happens public relations, community relations, investor relations, government relations, all that way. It follows like that. Now, on the com side, it is not dealing particularly with a stakeholder like the PR. It is rather looking at a practice area. So corporate communications is looking at corporate environment. Marketing communications is looking at marketing. Strategic communications is looking at communications across all sectors, but with a strategic lens. It's not tactical.
Mm.
If it is which other kind of policy communications is looking at policy as a whole. So it's looking at how you would take policy and then you would formulate the policy, implement the policy, advocate the policy, monitor the implementation of the policy, get feedback from the audience, see how it's growing along the line. That's what,
Yeah.
that's what policy communication does. Political communications too is looking at the political context and then framing a strategy, a practice, and approach on how to ensure that the messages in that political system, they travel from the people generating the messaging to the people receiving the messaging, conveying the intended meaning, and then inspiring the required action. So corporate communications, to my mind, is contextual, is based on a context, but then takes all the frames of communications around it, whereas public relations is focused on a stakeholder and how you build relationships on it. There is intersection clearly, because
Yeah.
when I'm doing my corporate communications, I will need to reach into media relations. I will need to reach into protocol or publicity or advertising, depending on what I'm doing. But the point is that in corporate communications, it is contextual. I don't know if that explanation makes
Yeah. I
any sense,
mean,
but
Abiodun,
that's
let's know. Let's know in the
figure it out
comment
in my
box.
head. Sorry,
Yeah.
yeah.
I said, Abiodun, let's know if you got that clearly. You can just put a comment in the comment box, and that would really
And
go a
and
long way.
and one other, sorry, Shino, one other comment
Yeah.
I'd like to say on that is that I think the communications, one major difference that I see in the comms side is that comms is very much focused on messaging, the principle of the messaging, the audience. It's just really in corporate communications, everything, the heart of it is messaging,
Yeah.
whereas the heart of PR is relationships.
Hmm.
So
That's it.
in comms, everything you do in comms, it boils down to what is the message. Of course, the audience is important too. But what are you saying? Who are you saying it to? Everything revolves around messaging. What are you saying? Who are you saying? Why are you saying it? Why should they listen to you? What do you want them to say? That's it. But
Yeah.
in public relations, it's about behaviors, relationships, character, goodwill. It's just different. Which is why I say you need to have both, because if at the end of the day I'm saying the right things, but I'm not behaving right, it's also going to create a problem. So I need to be able to build relationships. I also need to be able to communicate well and understand where people are coming from and speak to them in their own language, which communications will help me to do. But so the two work together. But most of us, you find out that most of us are stronger in one area than others. I think I'm definitely more of a comms person, but I understand. But I started off as a PR person, because when I entered the
That's it.
workforce, there was nothing like comms. So I started off as a PR person, but I'm a hardcore comms person. I am so hardcore. I'm like, but I straddle both. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean that's quite interesting, because I know you as a consultant now, you have lots of courses that even comms professional can take, to sort of stay grounded, in the space of, or in the area of public relations. I mean, we can talk about that much later. I mean, and you can just follow Shola Apollo, where she gets to put most of her courses that you can take to help your skill sets. Thank you so much, Shola. So, moving on, I know we're getting lots of questions. Guys, keep them coming. Also, your reactions. You can as well share this live stream with some other persons, so they can also benefit from the conversation. that we're having today. All right. So, shall I? Yeah, we're in the digital age, and
Mm.
yeah, in your own opinion, do you think public relations is still relevant? I mean, because I feel that there are many professions today that seem to, just like you said, we have an intersection already between comms and PR, and we also have some roles that still get to do some of the things that that we'll see in PR. Do you think it's still relevant in the digital age? Let's really set
Mhm.
to that.
So I think definitely I would say yes. It's very much relevant in the digital age,
And
and
where
the
is it
reason
relevant? Let's be
why,
practical.
yeah, where I would say is relevant, which I had made reference to before that, but let me re-emphasize. Institutions, if you are anything institutional, anything you can call an institution, it is relevant. If it's a mass public campaign, like during COVID, NCDC wants to, whatever. As you can see, you could not spread that message by just sending tweets. You have to go town halls, go to churches, mosques, market square. You have to do a lot of that and really interact with the people, show them. Even the vaccine had to be brought into the neighborhood. It's part. Do you understand what I'm saying? With the billboards
Yeah.
and all of that, and people have to be able to recognize your logo. So there was a lot of, and you have to map every, your audience and the market to know, this is what I will give to this person and this will give to that person. So definitely anything mass campaign, health campaign, in fact, health campaigns, they definitely need that. Consumer brand launches too also need that, because again, it's relationship based. It's not just about a product, has to be brought personally to you. In fact,
Mhm.
if you notice, even in the digital world, influencers, you notice Fenty, when all of them started the launch, what's the first thing they do? They send a copy of the product to the influencers.
Yeah, to the
Do you
influencers. Yeah.
understand? That's PR.
Yeah.
That's PR. So that's a very good example of how PR is intersecting. So even though you are using social media, you're working with social media influencers who are very much a digital age creation, you don't send
Mm.
them a screenshot of your product. What's that? You don't know, you understand? You will send her a package, then the influencer will take a video and show the unboxing of it and actually try
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And that is
Yeah.
that. So, and then again, still in that with that influencer example, they also have public events where they invite influencers. All of them do it. All the major brands do it. Those of them in the fashion and lifestyle and entertainment spaces, they get invited. They invite. I mean Rihanna. They invite all of them. They as they have those. They, if it's Milan, they invite them. Even the fashion houses do it as well. They fly them down for their fashion shows. London, Paris, Milan, New York. It's all so. Despite the fact that these people still do a lot of posts on social media, digital promotion is a very strong part. Sometimes they pay them to actually make promotions on their page, but they still invite them to those in-person events as well. And
Yeah.
those social media influencers make a big show of showing on their page that, oh, I attended this the fall show, this is what I wore, this is who I sat with, I was in the front row, all of that. That's old school PR. In fact, that has been going on for decades. So all that has happened is that they have integrated it into the digital age. So the channels for expressing that. So before, if there was a fashion show, all we would see is a clip on TV. Now we're getting posts on social media, we're getting live videos, we're getting stories, we're getting, everything that you can imagine. So that's the difference. So the experience is being brought closer to us, but it's still very much old school PR that they're doing. They're not running 100% new digital AI generated. No, no, people are coming. They're actually leaving their locations and going to attend events in person. So it's still very, very relevant. I think the challenge for, okay, just let me just continue on this. So product launches, NGO initiatives as well, health programs, national, state, and local campaigns. So it really, for me, the question as to whether PR is relevant and where and how, it depends on who you want to reach and the kind of impact you want to have.
Mm.
So if you want people to be able to, if you want people to advocate for you, you want them to be able to influence, you want to influence people, you most likely you will have to bring in hardcore PR. You notice that all the digital communities we have in the, on social media. I remember there was a time when we had like Twitter communities hanging out. Have you noticed that
Yeah.
they will
Yeah.
form the communities online After a while, they themselves, they will advise themselves, it's time to meet in person.
To
Don't
meet
you
in
think
person, yeah.
there is no digital community that stays 100% digital, except they are separated by boundaries. Like, okay, like Reddit, for instance, you can't meet in person because you're in different parts of the world or something.
Yeah.
But other than that, if you are localized, I remember the time Quora Twitter had a hangout, you will
Yeah.
meet up. You will
Even
meet up.
TikTok and Facebook, Meta to also have hangouts now and then and all that. Yeah.
So that's the thing. So there is always that. So for me, it's really about what are you trying to achieve, and everybody should know. You should know the point. You just know how far social media or digital media can get you, and then know where PR. The pathways are different. What I see a lot of people doing now is focusing on digital to the exclusion of all else. You are making a big
Mm.
mistake, particularly if you have demographics that are not on that social media. You are making a big mistake, and that's why again in politics we see some people, you focus too much on social media to the detriment of offline. Don't have that blind spot. Not everybody is on your Twitter with you. Not everybody is on. And at the end of the day, anything that doesn't make impact in the real world is not making impact. Which is why I have a very strong, when people start talking about, they're counting likes, impressions, I'm like, please, I never measure my performance based on social media metrics. I base it on things that happen in real life. So if I put out a post or I'm marketing something, it is the people that phone me based on that post. That's how I know the post is not. I don't mind that, no matter how many comments or engagement. That's not what I measure. What I measure, like yesterday, I put up a post about training, and yeah, I see that Shino has been knocked off, but I'm sure he'll come back soon. So, like yesterday, I put up a post about training, and then a friend of mine called me later and was like, "Oh, Shola, I need you to do some training in my organization." So for me, I was like, "Oh," and I linked it back. Oh, it was that post that he saw, even though the post was not about I was talking about my courses generally, but then it achieved something in real life and made somebody think about the fact that, oh, Shola, you can actually come and train us, train some of the leaders in my organization. So that's the way you measure the impact of your communications. It's not necessarily just about what you put out there, or posts and things like that. So while Shino is trying to get back in, and Femi, please contact him and just help him so that he can come back in. I will take some of the questions that I have here. So Priscilla, thanks for joining. I see the question from you about what's my opinion about press releases, distribution services offered by PR consultants, and that kind of thing. So for me, I I think it depends. You have to be very careful. And I'm aware of those services, but you have to be very careful when you welcome back, Shino. Can you hear
Yeah.
us now?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for coming back in. Yeah. So I'm taking a question from Priscilla. I just said let me take
Okay,
that while you're off. So
that's
let
fine.
me just answer because a couple of other questions that have come in. So Priscilla, so my those services, what I would say about it is this. I have heard about, I've worked in organizations where they were in they were being used and things like that. But I would say you have to monitor it very, very closely to make sure that you are getting value for money. Because otherwise, you just be paying upfront for something that is not even making any sense at all. I honestly didn't. If you are working in a large organization, I don't see the value. Let me just, to be honest, I don't see the value because where I used to work before, what we did was we had somebody who would go through all the papers every day, and then they would come up with the highlights where we were. The company I worked for them was a major multinational, so we'd come up with the highlights where we were putting, and then we'd circulate it to the senior leaders. I think there's a tool that monitors media mentions very well now. It's called Brand24, and if you want to do that, I think you'll get more bang for your buck using Brand24 than getting press. Okay, but no, this is a different question. You're saying press releases, distribution services. Well, if you don't have direct contact to the media, then you have no choice but to use them, is what I will say. Sorry, I was thinking about media highlights. It's a different question. Press, if you don't have direct contact with the media, then you are forced to use those people. You have no choice because either way, you need your press releases to get out. But I would say build your relationships with the media, even though you are using these third-party agencies, because depending on, particularly if you're a high impact organization, because there will be a day you will have to engage them one-on-one. I've seen many companies that have this at a distance approach to media management. I've seen it bite them when it comes to issues, because those agencies, they're not proactive. They only react, they only give you what you ask for. So they're not people who really help you to preempt situations. They don't advise. They don't do advisory. But I see a lot of companies, because they have those agencies on hand, they believe they already have, we have somebody helping us with media. Then when there's crisis, all of a sudden, all of you are looking like, I don't even know what. You understand? Then I realize that you don't have anybody helping with your media. All you have is somebody that is like a postmaster. He's helping you. Is like Amazon. He's delivering package.
Delivering your packages.
That's what he's doing. And then you're telling me you have media advisory. No, you do not. Because a media advisory would have been able to see issues coming up, will be advising you on response. And all these people do is they're just postmasters. So, Priscilla, I don't know if that answers your question. So, again, it goes back to the lack of awareness about our practice area. A lot of people just don't know. That's what I see. A lot of business leaders, a lot of HR recruiters, they just don't know. So we're using, even some of us PR practitioners don't know. So if you are a major company, when I say major, your balance sheet is in millions of dollars or tens of millions of naira or hundreds of millions of naira, you need to have a developed media advisory service. You need to have, first of all, like those press release distribution people, and then media advisory, people that can help you advise when you are managing a crisis, people who can help you think on your feet, what is acceptable to do in this case. And there's something like we're having a course coming up on May 30th. You can actually see that written. It's actually the only time this year that I'm going to do a course on PR, because I know a lot of people don't like to hear that PR. It doesn't sound sexy. So I just took a judgment and said, okay, let me do it just once a year. So May 30th is the one and only time we're doing this course this year. I'm hoping I can have some of these courses on demand, online, by the end of the year, when I can get some time to record them. And when they're there, I'll just dump it there. Anybody that asks me about PR, I'll be like, go and watch my on demand. But until then, I'm just having this one course. And there, on that day, I'm going to be talking to the people in the room about the difference between how you manage a crisis using an integrated PR and media approach. So there are some things that will happen, even though it came out in the media. That doesn't necessarily mean that you rush to the media and respond. You may need to engage some people first before you respond. If at all you respond, how you respond, when you respond. In fact, it is how those engagements go behind the scenes that will determine what you will say, if at all you will say anything. So these are things that some of these your PR consultants may not be able to help you to do. But that media PR balance, in fact, the course on May 30th, I'm going to be talking a lot about balancing that media and PR. I was telling Shino, when Shino and I were discussing before this session, about how I thought the Harry and Meghan visit was so well managed. First class event, because they did old school PR, they managed the space, and even though they created a lot of digital content and used social media, it was a very tight use of social media. It reminded me of my old school days. Did they, because they merged both worlds. So there was no careless tweeting, there was no use of memes, it was so cultured, it was so, it was just really, really nice, is how I would put it. And it was done in a way that it delivered the value, and it was respectful, it was befitting of the caliber of the guests, and it was just really awesome. And for me, that is what really, really makes the difference between when you understand the traditional PR and also you merge it in this world. Therefore, you are not doing things the way other people do it. You are remembering the institution that these people, or whatever it is they represent, or the brand that they represent, and the nature of the brand. But you are leveraging on the PR, you are leveraging on the media, you are leveraging on the digital social media as well, but in a respectful way, in a curtailed way. So it's not looking like what some other people will do, but it is in keeping with the caliber and the status of the client, or the people that are the brand that is being projected. And for me, that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to do this course, and I picked this topic about public relations, because I think a lot of people are so caught up in the social media jumping trends, snack, clapbacks, that they realize that there's a whole world.
Yeah.
All of this is not acceptable. And that world, there's a lot of money to be made there. So your decision to to over specialize very early in your career around the fashion, the vibes and memes industry, it's not a good long-term plan. I'm sorry to say, because there's this, yeah, it's not a good. I'll just leave it at that. So back to you. Back to you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Shola. I mean, this has really been insightful and enriching for me. And I can tell that it's the same for others as well on the call. Yeah, I can see Osas saying impressive perspectives. Yeah, that is what you get when you join Shola's live sessions on LinkedIn. Yeah, great one. Okay, I mean, our time is fast spent, and I know in another couple of minutes we will be bringing this to a wrap. But then I just wanted to touch on a few things just before we close on this, right? Um, I just want to believe, I want to assume that there's somebody on this call who is saying that, okay, Shola, I need you to tell me, what would you say are the things that are, online social media communications or marketing can deliver, that okay, what public relations can really deliver that online social media communications cannot, deliver, or in marketing, experts cannot deliver.
So thanks for that question. I think what I would say is that, excuse me, first of all, we cannot deliver in person, eyeball to eyeball contact. It's just the truth. That's the one thing that I would say it cannot deliver. And it also, that presence. I mean, again, I'm going to go back to Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, because after the Nigeria visit, which was hugely successful, very successful, they managed security breach. I mean, there was no security breach protocol. Everything was orderly. They compiled about 20 different visits. In fact, about 20 to 25, because we are still getting footage of the
Yeah.
different get-togethers they held within a very short period of time. And each one was a photo opportunity, was, man, amazing stuff. And very closely, and they planned all these things low-key. There was no leak, there was nothing. Very tight media presence, a few media, select media managing it. Social media also managed very carefully. No, they did not put a step wrong. I have never, it's been long I've seen this kind of masterclass management, event management, which just tells me a lot about the people that are behind it. These are people that are used to handling high profile. I mean, do you understand? There are people used to
Yeah.
serving people that of a particular status, reputation, and caliber, and they
Yeah.
understand confidentiality. And these are the things that you learn from PR. So for me, I mean, there was a comment that Prince Harry made. He had an interview after they left Nigeria, and he said, you know what, that we're going to be doing more of these visits, that there's a limit to what you can do from your house and from
Mm.
Zoom. And that sometimes you just really have to come out and get out and meet people. That
Yeah.
is the truth. And I say this, I am 100% virtual advocate. I launched my firm in 2020 during the COVID, to the glory of God, virtually. As in, I didn't do you understand? I never had a physical event to launch my firm and my brand. So if there's somebody who loves this virtual world that we're in, it is me,
Yeah.
moi. Do you understand? But I tell you something. I have been doing a lot of work for people, online, and I mean, doing a lot of work. Most of my clients, they don't mind me like working remotely and all that. Sometimes I come in and see them. Most of them, I see them initially, and then after that, we're doing everything online. But the first client that I that had a public launch, and I was involved in that public launch to some extent, the impact that it had on people, the impact that it had on my brand, that was when I realized that, oh my goodness, at the end of the day, in person, you cannot erase it. So I had a lot of people were coming to me, oh, Shola. In fact, in their eyes, my brand became, do you understand? And I was saying to them, I
Yeah.
said, look, I have worked with people like this brand. In fact, this is the sixth company of this status that I'm working with. They say, but Shola, no, this one is different. The only difference was that this one had a public launch,
Mm.
an in-person event. That a lot of people, there was a massive gathering, high profile. That was the only difference. I'm telling you, it had more impact on people.
Wow.
Yes. Even people who were in quotes, I was amazed. It was a big learning for me. So, and these are, I mean, so, and I'm saying, I'm still getting and I'm still doing the work. A lot of my work is work that I can't talk about. A lot of the consulting work that I do, most of them is not, it will never get on social media. We're not doing public events. It's confidential strategic work,
Yeah.
advising management teams. So we don't, it will never get out. You will just see the company implementing it. You will not even know. I can't even tweet about it and say I did what. I don't talk about it. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
that's that. But I still get the work anyway. But it was shocking to me how much that the impact that that public event had on. In fact, somebody said it was like, oh, now it's like they were more or less saying to me, oh, now we know that you are really in the game. I was like, oh, girl, excuse me, I have been in the game for a while, that kind of thing. But so that's it. Just like, in fact, a good example, back to Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. You see the impact that people are now taking them seriously. They're all
Yeah.
scrambling. The UK government, all the people, detractors and all. Meanwhile, everything they showed on that day, they were already doing it before. They didn't come to launch anything new.
Yeah. Yeah.
But just the people seeing it, people seeing them interacting with the veterans, seeing them on ground in Nigeria, it's had a big impact. So what I would say, one thing that I would say that PR, traditional PR does, which you may not get, is online, is real life content, interaction with
Yeah.
people, unscripted moments.
Yeah.
Because when you create content, studio content, you are written the script, you've written everything. The best part, for instance, of the Harry and the Meghan was the unscripted moments.
Yeah.
Many things were unscripted. For instance, when they went into the school and they were dancing with the children, unscripted. That one went viral on TikTok. I don't know if they were, the whole meeting with the kings, traditional rulers, royal fathers. I'm not sure how much they were aware of it. Some of the gifts they received, there were a lot of things that were surprise. So we caught the surprise as well. I mean, the dancing on the basketball court in Ilukpej. I mean, oh Lord, it was just a buffet of content. They were just serving us, first
Yeah.
course, second course, third course, appetizers, aperitifs. It was just coming. So
It was
compare
well
that.
planned.
It was, yeah. So compare that to something that you had done separately. Oh, you sent a camera out, it took pictures. It's not the same. It's not the same at all. Even though that one can deliver value, but honestly, it's funny that when this whole thing happened over the weekend. Of course, I monitored it from. I was fully online. I monitored it, but it was really good for me to see because I was like, oh yes, this shows me that traditional PR will continue to coexist side by side with the digital social media side of things, and that the people who will do well in the future in our practice area are those people who are able to merge both worlds very well.
Yeah.
So what we saw with that event, this is a couple that has been attacked a lot by people. There was many reasons for them not to invite pressmen there, to just do it closely behind us. So they made sure that the protocol was very tight. They selected a few. So rather than saying no media, they said some media.
Mm.
And they made sure they were trusted individuals. Rather than saying no social media, there was some social media. But you can see that there was a vetting process because many of the images didn't start coming until much later. And
Yeah.
there's been no image that has come out that is controversial. Do you understand? These things don't just happen.
Mhm.
So somebody behind the scenes is ensuring there's a vetting
Yeah.
process. And they make sure that the people who are even close enough to take images, you are vetted. And you're not the kind of person that is going to do what he's not supposed to do. So all of that, and like I said, these are things we learned in traditional PR. Event management is under traditional PR.
Mm.
The type of event management that is under comms is virtual event management.
Yeah.
And then where you now create that or those hybrid events where you have the live event and then you create for the online audience. That's where that's a good example, like what happens in the Experience Gospel concert, how you
Yeah.
have people and then those of us who are forever online people will watch, will make sure and then after the event you post some videos for people to see. So that's also, I think, a good example of how you intersect both worlds. There's some people that until they are in that concert, they don't want to.
They're not there.
They're not there for that virtual
Yeah.
matter. Then there are some
Yeah.
people who it is on TV they will watch the experience. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
People like us, we are on the YouTube, we are the YouTube community. You know what I mean? Nothing will
Yeah.
make me go into that arena. Sorry. What as I desire to, I will not. But then there's some people, to them, if they are not in the arena, then they didn't attend the event. So it's really knowing, and the fact that we still hold concerts today. Yes, we have virtual concert, but it's not the same as the physical concert. So that in-person traditional way of doing things, what I now see is that it is going to coexist side by side with digital.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
really knowing how you intersect the two. So yes, I would say it delivers that in-person experience, real life content, and unscripted moments. That's, I think, the advantage that it has.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Thank you, Shola. I'm sure that answers the question on someone's mind. And I just want us to take this particular question, which is more career focused, and that is how professionals can build their capacity in public relations. And how do you know when you've developed, the necessary skills and competence to call yourself, oh, I'm a skilled, expert, or I'm a skilled or PR expert practitioner. Yeah.
So I think so what I would say is that, first of all, go to NIPR sites, or go to CIPR, which is Chartered Institute of Public Relations, and look at the specialisms that they have given for the practice area, and see, first of all, where you are in any of those things. Do you even know that such things exist? At least know what you do not know, is what I always say to people. So once you get, if you go in there and then you look at the things that they, the specialisms that they have and the courses that they have. In fact, CIPR has a very good spread of traditional public relations courses. If you go and look at all of them, then you can then determine which is it that you know, which is it that you don't know. Do you now want to find more? Do you want to grow a bit more in a certain area or another? For instance, for many years, I knew that communications research was not my strong point. I knew that because I had not spent, I was a receiver in my former life, I was a receiver of the service. I wasn't a provider of the service. So I started attending courses to begin to know more about how to do communications research. One of the last projects that I worked on before I left my formal place of work was a communications project. It was in the UK. Actually, I worked that time for a year in the UK. And I worked with this research agency. I didn't know that God was preparing me for my future life. That's 6 months that I worked with them on that project really, really helped me to open my eyes to the world of communications research, how to ask questions, how to conduct focus groups, how to use the findings from the survey. It was a very world-class company. So by the time I now started my own firm, I had to then do research for others as well. I had to do a lot of learning. In fact, I'm right now in the middle of a research. Now, if you see me, now I can say that I won't call myself a research expert, but I'm now skilled. So I moved from awareness, which is where I was. Our practice levels are this: awareness, knowledge, skilled, and expert. I moved from a position of awareness, which is where I was before I did the project in the UK, then moved to a point of knowledge over that 6 months working with them in that project. But until I started doing it myself as an independent consultant, I had then moved knowledge to skill. I started off with simple research surveys, now to a little bit more complex ones. Now, after this a little bit complex one that I'm doing, I think I can take on more complex one, although I think I need to set up a big team, a larger team to be able to do that. But now I can now say I'm skilled in communications research, but I couldn't say that 3-4 years ago. So I have acquired knowledge, and I have acquired expertise and experience. I have actually done things. Now, if you ask me, I will say I have conducted a survey with a sample of about 500 people and analyzed the results for use in this decision making in a XYZ kind of firm. I can say that. I could also say before then I'd done maybe like 140, 150, that kind of thing. So it's real life experience. So a lot of the reasons why I do these courses is because I want people to understand that there is really, there is concrete skills and experience behind what makes you grow in the practice. It's
Great.
not vibes and memes like they say. No, it's not. Everybody
Yeah.
pays their dues. And if you don't, Shida, you want to laugh, you can laugh. So if you don't pay your dues, you don't go out and get that skill, go out and get that experience, go out and get that expertise. You will never have it. It will not fly on your body, it won't grow on you. You have to, just like in my case, thank God. And what I found, like I said, knowing what you don't know is half of the challenge. Because I think a lot of people don't know what they don't know. For me, once I knew that it was a poor performance, a gap for me in my expertise area, then I started actively looking for opportunities to grow in that area. And I wasn't deceiving myself that I knew what I don't know. So I eased into it. And I knew even when I had a job to do in that space, I continued to learn. I continued to read up. I continued to research because I know it was a gap area for me. Do you understand?
Yeah.
If I'm doing crisis management, I won't read up like that because crisis, I'm an expert.
Hmm.
But for this one, I'm not. Even now, I will not call myself a research expert. And I don't think I will ever be a research expert. The only thing that can make me go into a research expert, I have to go back to school to learn statistics. Then I can come back and say I'm a research expert. But I can say I'm skilled. I am skilled. If I need an expert, I will hire an expert to work with me on a project. So I can't call myself expert. But crisis, I will call myself expert because I know that I am. And I have the hours to support it. I have the pedigree to support it. I have the expertise, the skill level, the abilities to support calling myself an expert. So back to you, Shino. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Shola. I mean, if you guys, if you know, you really. Oh, thank you, Bukola. Bukola says this has been insightful. I'm sure that is what others would really be saying. Please, you can just put it in the comment section. Let's know your thoughts about the session so far. Shola, I know this will be available on LinkedIn. I mean, or is it also on your YouTube channel? Right. So guys can even check past resources, and listen and learn from some of the past sessions. Yeah. Thank you. This has been really enriching for me. Okay, so, Shola, to bring this to a wrap, what will be your final words? Do you think PR will still be relevant? In days to come? Do you think PR is yet to stay forever? Or do you think the digital age will eat up PR? AI will eat up PR, for example.
To
Yeah.
be honest, I know AI for where AI. I think this is my. I'm going to share my thoughts about all this whole technology thing. I think sometimes we get ahead of ourselves. Up till now, there are still people farming in their farms with hoe. Do you understand? With a hoe. So the point is, development is not even in the world.
Yeah.
Even in countries like China, we still have people farming with traditional implements. So there is no, I don't see any scenario because this world, they're not even trying to solve poverty. All they are doing is making the rich richer and the poor poorer. So
Mm.
there is no way that technology will take over the world because for that to happen, that means they have to eradicate poverty. And from everything I'm seeing, nobody is seriously making any attempt to address poverty. Apart from that, war and conflict, even the little development that we are having, war and conflict is also tearing it apart. So for that reason, there will be pockets of excellence where some of these things will thrive. And there are
Beautiful.
many places where they will not be. Up till now, there's a concept in digital, whatever called left behind. People who are left behind digitally, people who are not covered. There are areas there is no access to. They don't even have what's that thing they call the Wi-Fi poles, the things that what's the word the
Okay.
masts. They don't
Yeah.
even have it. They're not even in their areas, so there's no access. They're completely cut off. They cannot even afford data. So those kind of people are cut off from a lot of things. So where I see the world going, and that's the analogy that I think would apply to PR as well, it will coexist because there will always be institutions that will need to do things traditionally. There will always be people that will need protocols, state governments, hierarchy. When you are managing anything with a government, China government, go and tell them, go and meet the Chinese president and say, hey, Jonathan, don't follow protocol, or go to North Korea and try to talk to the president. Jonathan,
Yeah.
military, all those kind of places, they will forever follow the traditional protocol. It's never going to change. Never.
mm,
In fact, they pride themselves on the fact that they are holding fast to tradition. You are dealing with the monastery, the Tibetan monks, whoever it is, the one dynasty or these people who trace their history back to 1400, they're not going to change. The same thing, I mean, our royal fathers that we saw over the weekend, many of them, they are dressed. When I looked at them, it was like time has stood still because the way they used to dress, I mean, I know some of them, the way they dressed 20 years ago when I knew them, that was exactly how they looked yesterday, over the weekend.
mm,
So the institutions remain the same. There are people guarding those institutions to make sure that they remain the way they are. It's not you and I that is going to change it. Definitely not social media, definitely not technology. They will leverage on social media. They will leverage on technology, but only to protect that institution in the way that they want it to be. They will not change the institution. So what I see is a continual coexistence. I don't even see a world where people say, oh, by the time Gen Z grow up, they will. I mean, Gen Z is already grown up. Nothing is changing. Do you understand what I'm saying? We're even seeing traditional Gen Z. Even within Gen Z, I'm seeing some Gen Zs that talk like, I mean, there's this content creator. I don't want to, but he won the award for the content creator this year. I don't want to mention
okay,
it.
okay, okay.
But the guy is like, he's so old school. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He behaves like people from another generation. So the point is that it, these things will continue to coexist. That's the best way I can put it. So I do not see a time when we will not need PR or we will not need comms. We will both. It's just about where, who, when, how, why. But be aware of both so that you do not limit yourselves within a sector. But I mean, I think for some people, if you're in the entertainment, but even in the entertainment world, there's PR. There's PR because I mean, if you notice, like the after parties after the Oscars and all of that, that's all PR.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then when they do meet and greet for you with some of the international stars, you better know what to say and what not to say.
Hmm.
This that's it. So for me, I'm like, yeah, this and these are things. If you have, even if you're an agent and you're working with a brand person, or even as a musical star, if you don't know how to help the person to navigate those spaces, the person will never make the best of those opportunities. I remember somebody made a comment about Wizkid very early on that this was one of the reasons he went really far in the industry early, because whenever he went to any of those Hollywood parties and things, he networked very well and he built lasting relationships. That was what people said about him. And that's why he got more than many of the artists of his time, because he built and if you look at it, really, the guy is a networker. If you look
Yeah.
at him, apart from the music, he has a lot of, you see the way presidents call him and they say, come and do this, so he was building his PR, his personal PR, not the one that agents do for him. He had his own personal PR going, how he relates to people when he meets them. So he, as of right now, he has contacts with presidents all around the world, people who will call him on a personal basis and say, come. And we've seen that happen, how billionaires call him to the house, my daughter's birthday, they invite him to all those things. Who else do we see them giving that kind of access to? So he understood that. And even though he's doing the social media thing, he's also doing that personal PR thing. So for
Yeah.
me, I think that's the way it has to go. So all of us need to just straddle both worlds because each one delivers different value. So that's my final thought. Sorry, I've gone. I've overused it. Back to you,
Yeah,
Sheila.
no, 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 no worries. This has really been, um, you know, insightful for me as well. And frankly, PR really come to stay. I mean, we can't talk about the fact that you need to build credibility and trust, and you say you don't want that. I mean, that's part of what PR is: reputation management, relationship building. These are essentials for organizational building and even sustainability as well. So, guys, I know you've been you've really found this impactful, and I just would want us to give a thumbs up to Shala, for pouring out from a depth of knowledge. If we're still online, please just put it something in the comment box. Let me know that you found this really insightful. Thank you very much. Okay, so we've come to the to the end of the conversation today on leveraging on the power of public relations in the digital age. I'm sure Shola has some other contents or some other live sessions coming up. So you want to stay glued on our page so you don't miss out on any of them. Right. So that'll be all from my own hand today. Thank you so much, guys. Ensure you follow Shola as well on our LinkedIn accounts. Thank you, Bukola. I will see your comments. Awesome, awesome, awesome.
And
All
thank you,
right.
Sheena. Thank you so much for offering to moderate this session and for being here today and sparing the time.
Yeah,
Most
thank you.
thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much. Thank you. So, guys, let's keep the conversation ongoing. And in the office where you work, you can speak with your boss. Tell your boss, "See, we need to take PR seriously." Yeah, really, we can't overemphasize the importance of PR. All right. So, thank you so much, guys. We'll see you some other time. Bye for now.
Thank you and bye bye. Thanks, Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you, Shola.